My air fryer crab cakes take only 15 minutes to make and come out super delicious every time. I'm Justin from Cooking with Coit. I specialize in clean comfort cooking. And remember, if you love this video, make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons. Let's get started. Let's first go over all the ingredients you need to make this recipe. Crab, panko breadcrumbs, olive oil spray, scallions, parsley, an egg, lemon juice, Dijon mustard, Old Bay seasoning, mayo, and salt and pepper. And the one piece of special cooking equipment you're gonna need for this recipe is an air fryer. Guys, I am so excited to show you this recipe today. I have another recipe for crab cakes on my website, and that is a pan fry version, but I think this version comes out a little bit better. I think it's a little faster, and if you have an air fryer already, you should definitely give it a try. The first thing we're gonna do is to cut up our green onion, and it is very important in this recipe that you cut up everything as small as possible because you have to think ahead here. We're gonna be making a mixture that then we're going to be forming into patties, and we're gonna be cooking them in the air fryer. And so you really don't want any big chunky bits because that's going to keep this crab mixture from holding together nice and tight. So I am cutting slices out of these green onions first, and then I'm gonna go back through them and just do a kind of a rough chop to get them nice and small. Next, we need to mince up 2 tablespoons of parsley. I'm first going to take all of the biggest parts of the stems and the leaves off of the stalks of parsley, and then I'm just gonna mince up really like the finer stems and the leaves. And again, you really wanna make sure that you're giving everything a really fine mince. Next, we need to juice our lemon. My recipe calls for 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. That's gonna be just about half of this lemon. I think I cut it a little too thick. Oh, it's hard to squeeze. You should cut your lemons a little thinner if you're gonna juice them like I did. Okay, that'll do. That's just about a tablespoon. The next thing we're gonna do is grab out a large mixing bowl just like this and grab out your crab. This is gonna be 1 pound of crab. Let's toss this in the bowl. And before we move on, we've gotta do one other step. So let's take a look at this crab and kind of sort through it with a fork. And what we're looking for is we don't want any giant clumpy pieces of crab. And again, because of what I said earlier, you just don't want anything that's very thick, any big thick pieces in these crab cakes, or else they're not gonna hold together very well. So I always like to look through the crab, and if I see like a big clumpy piece, I just mash it with a fork and make it smaller. All right, we are looking good. So just one quick note, guys, the full recipe with all the instructions and ingredients are on my website. You can find that link in the description below the video. Next ingredient for these crab cakes is going to be a 1/4 cup of mayonnaise, followed by 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard. And of course, you cannot make crab cakes without Old Bay seasoning. This is an absolute classic and so good on seafood of all kinds. We're gonna be adding 1 teaspoon. Now, if you love Old Bay seasoning, you can go ahead and add more than 1 teaspoon. I love Old Bay, but it is a very strong flavor. I think it's the celery root in here that makes it such like a potent, strong flavor. I'm gonna use only 1 teaspoon, but if you love it, go ahead and use more. We're also gonna be adding 1 egg into this mixture. Now, really the point of the egg here is just to act as a binder. It's gonna help hold these patties together. Let's go ahead and add our green onion that we minced up earlier. Now, green onion is a very important ingredient. I would not skip it. If you don't have access to green onion, you could possibly use chives. You could also just mince up a yellow or white onion as well. Now I'm going to be adding the parsley that we minced up earlier and the 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. Now, another important binder and also something that provides a lot of great texture in these crab cakes is panko breadcrumbs. So we're gonna be adding 1 full cup of them. I tested this recipe with a full cup and then a half a cup. And what I found is that you really need more breadcrumbs. You really need the full cup because without that, the mixture gets a little bit too watery. And you really don't want an overly watery mixture when you're putting it into the air fryer because typically on an air fryer, there's that sort of layer of metal that separates the basket from the food. And you don't want the crab cakes to start to seep through the holes of that layer. So 1 full cup of breadcrumbs is very important here. The last 2 ingredients for these crab cakes is gonna be a pinch of salt. You can do 2 pinches if you want. Just about a 1/4 teaspoon is perfect. And then we're also gonna add a pinch of black pepper. And next you have your choice as to how you wanna mix this up. You can use a spatula, of course. I'm actually going to be using my hands. I feel like it's really important to get your hands in your food sometimes, and especially this, I really wanna work this mixture, get it all sort of nicely incorporated with all the ingredients. So I think the best way to do that is with your hands. So I'm just gonna get in here and just give this a really nice mix until everything is very well combined. Now let me know in the comments below if you guys also like to get your hands in the food, or if you're more of like a spatula and tongs type of person. Some people think that when you get your hands in your food, you're literally like injecting love into the food, which, listen, I know that sounds super hokey and kind of ridiculous to some people, but I think there might be some truth to it. It really is about how much time and attention you put into your food. And then when somebody's eating that, I swear it matters in the final flavor. I swear it will taste better if you do that. All right guys, so this is exactly how your mixture should be looking right about now. So now that we're done with our mixture, grab out a 1/2 cup measuring cup, and you can use that to form the patties. So first, get a good scoop all the way up to that 1/2 cup mark, and then toss it into your hands. So all you have to do is just compact it nice and tight with your hands. And if you see any little bits, like kind of stringy parts, just push that right inside of the crab cake. And so what you should be noticing right now is that the mixture is not too wet and it's not too dry. It should be somewhere right in between. I know that's kind of subjective, but you'll get the hang of it. And once it is ready and done from being formed, just toss it on the plate. Now the ideal thickness of these crab cakes is probably about 1 inch thick, and it's okay if they get a little bit bulkier towards the middle. You have to remember that the crab has already been fully cooked, so you don't really have to worry about raw ingredients here other than the egg, but that's not such a concern because we're gonna be air frying them too. So about 1 inch thick is just about right. So now we are going to be air frying these crab cakes. Grab out your olive oil spray and give the air fryer basket a light coat of spray. Now some people have been telling me in the comments that you should not put olive oil spray inside of your air fryer basket. My air fryer basket never gets stained with the olive oil. I always clean it really well. I've only had a good experience. If you have heard this rumor about not putting olive oil spray inside of your air fryer, will you please let me know in the comments below and let me know why, because I just don't really understand. So anyway, take out your crab cakes and we're going to put them into the air fryer basket. Make sure you give them as much space as you can. My air fryer will hold pretty much 4 or 5 crab cakes before they become overcrowded in the basket, which you don't want to do. You really want to make sure they have a good amount of space in between each other so that the hot air of the air fryer can move all around the crab cakes and get them nice and crispy. We're going to cook these crab cakes at 370 degrees for 10 minutes. Now in my air fryer, I don't need to flip the crab cakes halfway through like you might have to with other air fryer recipes. And the reason for that is that this air fryer has a top and bottom heating element, which really cooks the food very evenly. If your air fryer at home only has a top or bottom heating element, then you're gonna wanna flip the crab cakes halfway through the cooking time, which if it's 10 minutes total, you wanna flip at 5-minute mark. All right guys, the 10-minute timer just finished. Let's see how we're doing. Ooh, look at these beautiful crab cakes. They are looking so good already. And so listen, you could totally be done with these crab cakes at the 10-minute mark. You could take them out now and eat them and they'd be totally delicious, but I like to go a little bit further. So this is what I like to do. Grab out your olive oil spray and give them a light coat of olive oil spray right on the top. And then if you can, but you've gotta be very careful here, flip over the crab cakes very gently. You just don't want them to break apart. And if one feels like it's gonna break apart when you flip it, just skip it, don't flip it, because it's not worth breaking it. And now, on the underside, you wanna give another little spray. We're going to pop these back in the air fryer. Now we're gonna increase the heat to 400 degrees. And we're only gonna set the timer for 2 minutes. What this is gonna do, it's gonna allow the crab cakes to get even crispier, even more golden, and you're gonna see how beautiful they come out next. All right guys, the final timer just went off. Let's see how we did. Okay, these look so incredibly delicious. That final 2 minutes really helps them to get nice and golden. So now I'm gonna plate these and give them a try. These crab cakes look so incredible. I cannot wait to give them a try. But before I do, if you love this recipe and you want to see more just like it, check out my air fryers recipe playlist. Okay. Ooh, they look perfectly cooked. I'm gonna dip them in a little bit of this homemade tartar sauce that I made. These air fryer crab cakes are so quick to make and they have such amazing texture, crispy on the outside, perfectly tender on the inside with such great flavor. Guys, I know you're gonna love this recipe. I hope you give it a try. I'll see you in the next video.